are open secret. And you know, the thing with here, let me share my screen. That would be helpful.
While he's pulling that up, I was just going to say, on top of giving you guys the resources a little quicker here after this, we're also going to turn all these sessions into blog posts and other content that are kind of more step-by-step and publishing those on some of the Vendasta's properties. So you can look for those in the future as well.
So let me know if you guys can see my screen. You just type yes into.
We see that. I see that great photo.
So this is me and a bunch of our folks in the Philippines, and we bring our Blitzmetric shirts there. We treat them like family. We try to go twice a year because it's easy when you have remote workers to think that they're just like software programs that work in the background while you sleep. And when you treat them like people and you train them, you give them a career path, you understand what their goals are, they do amazing work and they are loyal to you for a long time. A lot of people think that the secret about VAs is that you have things that are just beyond the realm of automation that you need people for, that you can do cheaply. But it's not the cost, it's that they're loyal. And when you train up people in the United States, they tend to not want to do graphics design over and over again. They don't want to build landing pages. They don't want to prepare reports. They don't want to do video editing. They want to move on to the next thing. But the Filipino culture is such that they are loyal and they're not switching jobs. They're not looking for other opportunities. They are loyal to you. And that's the number one reason to hire VAs, is to have reliable operations on specific tasks that you want to scale repeatably. If you do not have tasks and training and a process that you want this repeatability, hiring VAs will just create a nightmare for you, right? So think about, what is it that you do that is repetitive every day, that eats up a lot of your time, that you don't want to have to do again? And if you're honest, what % of your time, like type it in the chat or think about it, what % of your time is doing stuff that's repetitive, that really it's not the best use of your time? It could be organizing meetings, it could be making reports, it could be organizing documents, it could be making proposals, any of these kinds of things. And if you're honest, you'll probably find the numbers north of 50%, right? So if you had that extra 2 or 3 hours a day, what's that worth to you? What could you be doing on your business that you've neglected that's higher value, like building relationships, like getting more sleep, like spending more time with your family? And so we see VAs as really a great time trade if you have a process and clear tasks you want them to do, and you run them through training. Okay, so that's the asterisk on hiring VAs. Any questions or thoughts on that so far? Okay, now we're going to go through 2 different versions. The first one is the presentation version, which is what we're able to talk about here and have live interaction on what it means to hire a VA, how the process works, how much do you pay them, how do you find the right ones, how do you train them up. And then we're going to shift over into the guide version, which is the book-like version. So this sucker is 60 pages, and you can read through it if you like. Some people prefer watching videos, which is kind of like what we're doing here, right? I told you that VAs are our open secret. The key is not that they are VAs for cheaper, it's that there is an amazing process here. And when you treat them like people, you get these sorts of reactions, right? So when I hear things like
2
this.
years ago, I was unemployed. Everywhere I went, companies needed at least 2 to 4 years of prior experience. Well, I had none. 0. It was extremely easy for me to just give up then, but I didn't. My perseverance eventually led me to online jobs at PH, and after hundreds of rejected applications, it led me to Blitzmetrics. I've learned a lot from amazing people like Dennis Yu and Logan Young about social media marketing. And right now, after a year, I want to share my knowledge and experience to aspiring virtual assistants, as well as help startups reach the goals that they lay down. I'm Geraldos, Senior Operations Manager of this metrics. Have a good day.
See, now this is when you have VAs that are helping other people so that you don't have to manage them. Once you get beyond 5 VAs, you're going to need to have an operations manager who's a project manager, right? Because once you get 1 or 2 VAs, that's great. You have a graphics designer, you have a video editor. When you run a digital agency, you can't not have video, right? But then you start to realize, I need to build a team. I need an operations person who can manage processes like billing clients and putting documents into the project management system and creating reports. But wait, I need a video editor too. And I need a content specialist. And I need a graphics designer. And I need someone to do community management because I don't want to be the one to go and click like and invite people and to look at complaints or collect testimonials, right? So over time, you'll start to get multiple VAs until you may get to the point where, like some of our friends that run agencies that have leveraged our process, have hundreds of VAs. And that might sound inconceivable to you, but you may find that as your business grows, being able to delegate out individual tasks that are driven by a particular role is absolutely key so you don't get burnout as an agency owner. And all of our friends that have hundreds of VAs started just them as themselves and then hired 1 or 2 VAs. And you want to start with a video editor and then add in an operations specialist and then add in a content person, a designer, and a community manager. So these are the roles. And the last one's engineering, which you probably won't need until you have a number of websites you're building, other kinds of components. But the key is that number one mistake people make in hiring VAs, you know what it is? They try to hire a super VA because they think that the VA can do everything. But ask yourself, do you know of anyone, even in the United States, who can do video editing and write copy and prepare proposals and make ads and analyze them and talk to clients and do graphics design? No one can, like, you can't do all of it. I can't do all of it. I have 22 years of experience in digital. I can't do all of it. So don't expect the VA to be able to do all of it either, right? Hire for one role, have them do that one thing. Do not give them anything to do that is not already part of training, because that's just not how it works. And it wouldn't work in any kind of job in the US either, or Canada, right? So set the right expectations. These are human beings. They come in on these particular roles, train them up. Now, because there are literally over 1 million Filipinos on onlinejobs.ph, we have to use 3-stage screening. Now, some folks have looked at this and said, your process is overkill. I only do a 1-round process or a 2-round process. And it works for them, and I've seen it, right? Other people will take our process and say, look, I love all the stuff you guys have, but I only want to use part of it, and that's fine, right? I'm not offended. But let me tell you why we have a 3-round process. Because we're hiring hundreds of people, we can't look at every single resume. You can't either. And when you put your first job posting up and you see, in the first day or two, you get 30 applicants, initially like, wow, this is so awesome. I got so many people to choose from. And then once you get 200 applicants, 300 applicants already in that job posting a day or so later, you're like, oh no, what am I going to do, right? They all start looking the same. You can't tell which ones are good or not. So we use our keyword sorter. So let me show you. So if I go to onlinejobs.ph, full disclosure, John Jonas, who's the founder of this, is a good friend of mine, and we've made a lot of training together. He's a white guy. You would think like he's some guy living in the Philippines. He is a white guy living in Salt Lake City. And I got it. Oh, he changed the password. Oh shoot! Oh, they just changed this one. Oh darn! I wanted to go in and show you. Well, anyway, you see a lot of the job postings, and they have to use the keyword that's buried in the middle of the post. So the job posting will say, hey, are you really organized? Would you like to become a general VA and do project management with us, even if you have no experience? Starting pays $2 an hour. To start the qualification process, go through this particular course, which gives us a chance to see how well they can actually do some of these things. And or here's an exercise, and make a 1-minute video about such and such, post to Facebook or YouTube and give us that link. And or buried in the middle of that job post is, make sure you use the keyword rabbit in the subject line, right? So when we see Every time we post a job and we see hundreds of folks apply, it'll say like, I'm the right VA for your job, or look no further, hire me, 10 years of experience, blah, 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 is their subject line, and they all get rejected, right? Because if they're coming in as an ads VA, they don't use the word koala in the subject line, then we know that they're a fail. And if they're a video editor, they say, yeah, I have a great reel and look at all the videos I've worked on, and it could be great. But if they don't use hedgehog in the subject line, then they're disqualified. You guys see why that's so key? The attention to detail is very important when you have remote workers, because they're not there with you in the office, and you need to know that you can provide asynchronous directions and they can follow through. This is a huge multiplier for your business, because while you're working during the day, they're sleeping. So let's say you meet a client, you mail out these requirements, you get all excited, write it all up of what needs to happen, you send it to them. In this case, we'll do it in Basecamp, but you can use Trello or email or Google Docs. And then when you're going to bed, they're waking up because it's halfway around the planet and they're working on your stuff. They've got to be able to operate without you being there to explain stuff to them. And then when they're done with the day and they've uploaded all the files, they've edited the videos, you wake up in the morning and you send that stuff to the client's gonna be like, we only talked about that yesterday afternoon, now it's the next day in the morning, how did you get that done? Did you stay up all night? And you just smile and say, yep, I've got a great team and they work really hard, aren't they awesome? But this can work to hurt you, right? This kind of multiplier can multiply awesomeness or it can multiply harm. You multiply harm when you don't have clarity of what you're trying to do. And then what'll happen, which is the most common complaint you'll hear of people that hire VAs, especially from the Philippines, is my VA disappeared. I gave them this stuff and they were on Skype and we were chatting, and then I didn't hear from them for a week. They just totally ghosted me. What actually happened is that they were scared and they didn't know what to say and they were embarrassed and they didn't understand. And instead of reaching out to you, because you might think, oh, well, if they don't understand, or you even tell them explicitly, oh, reach out to me if you have any questions at all, right? But they won't because they're just too embarrassed. They're ashamed. It's kind of part of the culture. You have to have everything super clear and have them go through the training, maybe even talk to them once or twice live, or make a quick little 1-minute video saying, hey, Geraldos, I love what you did on that last video. That was a great job. You know, I liked how this one thing you did, but there's one thing you could do that could make it a little bit better. So you have to provide loads of compliments it's called the compliment sandwich, loads of compliments. And in the middle, you have your little thing. And if you could just do this, this, and this a little bit differently, that would make it even better, right? And that's how you keep the VAs for the long run. And you use this keyword sorter as a way to bring them through for the people that can pay close attention to these details. Some people like to do an overlap shift where they'll say, you guys can work whatever hours you want, because we recognize that you have families and the best people, the best VAs don't want to work in the middle of the night. We know a lot of folks who say, yeah, I hire VAs and they have to work US operating hours, right? But that means they don't get to see their families and they're working upside down, which is not good for them. It's good for you in the sense that you can talk to them live on Skype all the time and you have set hours, right? Office hours of, like, if your office is open 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., then you require that, right? Eastern time or what have you. But you're going to get a lower quality work when you do that, because the good VAs don't want to work those hours. And it's, I don't want to say it's slightly distrustful, but it's more like what the call center people do with that level of monitoring. So you could have a modified version where you say, we have to overlap our time 2 hours during the day. So the last 2 hours of our day, you have to be awake. So that's the beginning of your day. So you have to be up at 5 in the morning or something like that, right? So you could work 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. or you could work from noon to 8 p.m. or something. So at least you have like a couple hours either at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day that you have that kind of overlap, okay?
Hey, Dennis, quick question for you. Do you always use onlinejobs.ph or use Virtual Hub or anything else?
We've used all of them.
Yeah.
We find that the largest pool of consistent workers is on onlinejobs.ph because you have homogeneity in the Filipino culture for ongoing work that's repetitive, which is really the best use of VAs. I don't really think you can do better than onlinejobs.ph. And plus, we're integrated with their processes. We've used them for many years. Certainly, there are VA hiring services, which is a common question we get, but then whoever's paying for their salary is the one they're loyal to. So you don't want to do a split VA situation where you have a VA that's split between 2 or 3 people, or move through an intermediary, because they're going to be loyal to the intermediary, and the cost of having your own VA is so low that why wouldn't you just pay the $450 an hour? I'm sorry, $450 a month for someone full-time working for you who has a college degree.
Right. I think some of those other ones were quite a bit more expensive as well. It was maybe $1,600 for full-times on Virtual Hub. I saw $800 for part-time.
Yeah, don't do that. That's a mistake. I have seen success. I'm not saying you can't be successful, but these other intermediaries are doubling and tripling the markup, and they're providing questionable value. Now, if you don't know any better and you just want to pay someone else and add a layer of project management, that's fine, but they're not going to know what you want to do, and you might as well just hire from India or Brazil, or even hire college kids on internships.com, right? Or hire people on Fiverr, but then you don't get consistency. You guys understand the difference between hiring a VA, which is an employee who works for you for years, versus you just need one thing done real quick for this one project, then go to Upwork or Fiverr.com, right? We have partnerships with those guys too. But in terms of your core operations, you don't want to be having a new person cycling in and out every couple of weeks in that role, because you want someone internal who understands who you are, who your clients are, what you stand for. Like, imagine you had someone who was doing community management, but you hired them on Fiverr. And every 2 weeks, or they last a month, sometimes they last a few days. Like, that's the way it is with freelancers. Imagine if you just have, randomly every month or two, you had to bring in a new one and onboard them again. It's a headache. It's just not worth it, right? You can find people cheaper than on onlinejobs.ph, but it's really, at a certain point, it's not worth your time. And to get someone who's working for you full time at $3 an hour, I mean, really, you're not going to do much better than that, right? Okay. So there's.
And that was actually, sorry, I wanted to pause for other questions if there were any. Is this a good time to pause? Do you guys have any other questions looking through some of this stuff? I do.
All right.
I was going to ask, it feels like, Dennis, you're very passionate about Online Jobs PH. So I'm just going to roll with your experience and say thumbs up on that and cancel my questions and say, let's just roll there. So.
Yeah,
there's
well,
a lot of networks.
There are a lot of
million here.
And Dennis, I know you've got both as well. Like, you have internal people and you have VAs. So how do you decide when this is an internal job or a job you're going to work with young adults to train up, or this is something that you're using a VA for? What do you tend to lean toward?
I will show you. So here we go. Can you guys see this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there are 6 ways that you can hire people. And this could be a whole session unto itself. And in fact, we've done a webinar just on this one slide and going into detail here. So why a VA versus when do you hire internally versus when you hire an agency versus when you use Fiverr? Think of this as an ascension. So here at stage 1, let's say you've just started your agency and you haven't managed people before, because that's a hard thing to do. Most managers are terrible, not because they're bad people, but you have to learn how to manage, right? And it doesn't mean being good at the thing that you're trying to get them to do. You have to learn how to manage. So the best way is training wheels. And that means hiring people on Fiverr to do one thing for $5 or $10. Because A, you can outsource that one particular task, but more importantly, you as an agency owner have to learn how to write requirements clearly. And you would think that sounds simple, but it's actually not. Learning to be very clear about what you want, providing examples, providing things about saying, make it like this, but not like that, or copy this landing page, it looks like this, or I want the design to feel like this, and I need it by this date, and it needs to have this many pages in it, or it needs like whatever. Being specific about it, which we call goals, content, and targeting, is very hard to do. And we know that young agency owners, if they go straight to hiring a VA, it ends up being a disaster. It's a first-time manager, right? The first-time manager is the worst manager. You never want a first-time manager. Fancy Hands is the same kind of thing, where you're paying $4 to $5 for a task. Usually it's a phone task because Fancy Hands is US-driven assistance that they can do most of the things that happen on Fiverr and on onlinejobs.ph. So that's why we put it in between Fiverr and the VAs. But they're best when you need an English-speaking person who is clever, who knows how to, for example, I had a friend who went to jail for something stupid that he did, and I had Fancy Hands call up and figure out what's the jail and what's going on and what do we need to do and how much is the bail and, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? Or call up JetBlue because I missed the flight and I need, you know, to be rebooked, or, you know, whatever it is, it's stuff like that, right? You're not going to use a VA for stuff like that. I don't like to use VAs for phone calls. I know you can, and there are a lot of people that do BPO, which is called business process outsourcing, where they use the Filipinos for the call center. You know, it could be Comcast or that kind of thing, but I don't think that's the best use. I believe that the digital marketing tasks are best on onlinejobs.ph, not the call center stuff that you have with insourcing in Utah or India, right, where you have the accent neutralization, that kind of thing. It's just, I don't think that's the best use. But digital marketing assistants, onlinejobs.ph. Then you may hire from the local universities, or you might hire college grads, and you want to train from within. That's number 4. That's what we call a specialist, where they can go through training and they learn how to do account management, and they learn how to do things like PPC and landing pages and other agency kind of stuff that requires more human interaction. We find that specialists are easier to develop than they are to find. And I've hired people that were executives at Yahoo, because I was an executive at Yahoo before, and these are people with 10 years plus experience. But I find that in digital marketing, they tend to struggle because they can say, well, back in my day, I did PPC like this, and then they want to argue with you, and they want too much money, and they're not loyal, and generally what I found. So it's just better to get people to come in and do it your way, because it's, wouldn't you agree, it's easier to train people up the right way who are fresh than it is someone who has a bad habit that you have to try to unlearn that bad habit and then teach them the right way, which is our process, right? 5 full-time local staff are people that are in your office, people that are with you, and that's different than a specialist who might be working part-time in Edmond, Oklahoma at Oklahoma Christian University. But when you have an actual office, they actually come in, there's a certain level of camaraderie where they're internal staff. Now, everyone here, the virtual assistants, they're internal staff too, but it's a little bit different because you're not working with them quite as closely, and it's governed more by the process. And as you get to beyond 5 or 6 VAs, you're going to have VAs that are managing VAs, meaning someone in the Philippines who is ascended through your program, who is then managing other VAs, and could even, we have VAs that are managing Fancy Hands and Fiverr tasks. So it's not to say that VAs can only manage VAs. We have specialists that are issuing requests on Fiverr and Fancy Hands and learning how to manage VAs. But we don't want to let a specialist or a stay-at-home mom or someone who's new to an agency start out by hiring a VA, because they don't know how to manage. You have to be so good at being able to organize yourself, being absolutely on top of communication and projects. If you can't do it yourself, you can't be managing other people. So we call that learn, do, teach, which is about don't be a hypocrite. If you can't be on top of your own tasks, you're not fit to be managing a team of other people. That just creates chaos, right? And then the last step there, hire an agency, you may want to outsource an entire process. You don't want to hire the individual people to do it, or it's something that is completely functionally outside of what you do, like maybe accounting services. So we outsource that. We outsource legal, we outsource other pieces, but we're not outsourcing to a person, we're outsourcing to a function. And you'll see more function outsourcing, like a design pickle, or there's ones that do like legal, it's like a SaaS by the month agency kind of thing, or per task kind of thing. Fancy Hands is sort of a version of that, but on a more lightweight scale, like $30 a month or $140 a month, depending on how many tasks you want. So this is the full spectrum of hiring, and you can see how VAs are in the middle, and they anchor this because they are your internal operations, which is what we call repeatable excellence. Does that make sense? And in fact, because we're already going down this path, we have a whole guide on our operations process that it's what our VAs are looking at. So this isn't the actual training itself. This is the operations process on how the different roles fit together. And you won't need this unless you're like over 10 or 15 people, right? Otherwise it just like doesn't make any sense. So this is 257 pages, and it shows, remember, a process is a repeatable thing. It has a start and a finish, and it has checklists. So we have checklists for onboarding clients. We have checklists for setting up campaigns, checklists for building websites, checklists for paying people and tracking your time and preparing reports and things like this, right? And we also have videos to show people, here's how you do that particular item. You can't just say do this and that. You have to show them this is how you do it. This is where you click. This is like, for example, here, there's 6 components, 6 types of threads to every Basecamp project. Very good. And you can see that, for example, when we set up a Basecamp project, we have a project overview. That's what kicks off the thread. This is what the project's about. This is the goals, content, and targeting. This is how much they're paying. Here's where the key team members are. Strategy assessment, right? Here's the access for other team members that come in or whatever. They don't have to ask like, oh, what, you know, where's their Facebook ad account, or what's their Google Analytics, or what are their websites. We have an internal update thread, which is an ongoing thread where we're asking questions internally and QAing. We have an external facing client thread where we update them and send out a note saying, in preparation for tomorrow's weekly call, here's what we're working on, here's the results, blah, 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 right? And then a meeting thread where we're summarizing, based on what happened in the meeting, we agreed we're gonna do this, we agreed that, you know, here's the dependency that you guys are gonna resolve. And so we teach this, and we have videos that accompany every one of these things. We have screenshots. So you can see this goes on and on and on. And we show people here on this process, right? So on the agency side, you as an agency, you need to have a process on how you're able to build your agency, set up your agency, and then have an ongoing process to run your agency. That is separate from what you're doing to get new clients and set up their campaigns and make sure you're selling them Vendasta products. And then an ongoing basis where they can go in their business center, they can see how things are doing, down to the customer level, which is the client of the client, where you're collecting content that feeds back into this machine up here in the middle, right? So it's all about these processes that run at 3 different levels. For example, for your ongoing agency operations, you need to have a project tracker. It says, here's all my clients, here's who's happy and not happy, red light, green light. Here are the new clients we're bringing in. Here's where we need to pay attention. Here's where we lost one of our people and we need to backfill by hiring another VA or hiring another specialist, or we don't have enough people, or, you know, the organizing of your business, working on your business, and then the client level stuff, working client by client, and then the things that you need to be able to deliver against those clients, right? So the operations process is what drives what the VAs are coming into. If you do not have an operations process and you start hiring a VA, don't you think that might be a problem, right? Because then how are they gonna know what to do if you haven't documented it? Maybe it's clear in your head, but it's not clear in their head. Until you've written it down, it doesn't count, right? And it might seem like this, now I gotta go into documentation time. It's like, you know, filing your taxes every year and producing documents, but I think you'll find it's worth it when you do this. It saves you so much headache. And the other thing is that, guess what? We've already done a lot of this, so why don't you just have a head start by adapting our processes? Doesn't that give you, like, instead of starting with a blank canvas, having to write out all this stuff, why not just leverage what we have and then tweak it to the way you want to do business, right? Okay, so we're continuing. Any questions on that so far? I guess I'll look in the comments real quick. I'm just going to continue on. Let's see, what do we have?
I was just going to ask if anybody uses VAs currently, or how many you have. Maybe just put that in the comments.
So put it in the comments.
No, we'll go ahead too.
I been using Fiverr a lot, and I'm looking to transfer over to VAs in the Philippines. I've just been scared of the process, and just how to really bring in that first person. And I see, you know, like you said, with the slide, bring in a videographer first, and then trickle it down. So with that, I mean, I see the steps here, but is it as simple as just going on that site, interviewing the folks, going through the process, and giving them day-to-day tasks on what they're doing in that on those videos?
You could, but the way you're describing it sounds more like Fiverr. So if you're giving people tasks here and there, Fiverr is all about an individual video edited, an individual website, like one thing you need done.
Yeah.
A process is an ongoing, repeatable kind of thing that you're doing over and over again.
Okay.
Where you can have someone in a role that does that same thing repeatedly. If it's a one-off, go to Fiverr.
Yeah.
But if it's onboarding clients, if it's setting up, their tracking pixels and reports, if it's building websites, and you're doing the same thing over and over again, then use a VA for it. But if you have significant variability in that task, do not use a VA, because then you're going to constantly be shifting directions and they don't like that. At the same time, with Fiverr, if it's something that's similar, then imagine, like, the beauty of Fiverr is you look at it and you say, wow, I can hire this guy for 20 bucks who will do all this stuff. You know what the real cost, though, is your time.
It's the time. So
because then you have to vet them, right? How much headache is it to have to find, and vet all these people every single time? It's like hiring a new person. Actually, it is hiring a new person every single time, explaining what it is, seeing if they understand. Like, if you have someone who has done, let's say that you offer, or you do like a landing page for dentists, and you talk about crowns, and you keep bringing in dentists that sell crowns, then it's going to work the same time every time. You wouldn't want to go to Fiverr and hire a new video person each time on Fiverr and re-explain the whole thing and retrain them up. When you've trained someone in one of these particular roles here, and there's 6 roles that we have here, then you don't have to train them up again. And you give them a career path, which I'm only like 10% of the way through this deck, because we've been talking about other stuff. But you'll see that there's a career path, and they might start at $2 or $3 an hour and eventually graduate up to $5, $6, $7 an hour, which is a lot of money over there, right? Yeah. And then they're able to trade up other people. Guess what happens if you hire a bunch of Fiverr people one-off? In the short run, it looks like you're getting ahead, right? But then the cost of your time and the headache and the management, where are you going to be when you're trying to scale up your business? Imagine if you had 10 times more clients than you had right now. Could you handle it? And if you had a bunch of people on Fiverr and you had a bunch of people wherever, think about the management overhead of being able to try to make that wheel turn without mistakes, right? It would just kill you. So I believe that we all need some level of internal support. And even if you're doing most of the stuff by buying white label services through the Vendasta marketplace, and maybe you buy stuff on Fiverr, is it not important to have an internal project manager who's having to chase the client to make sure they paid or filled out their forms or gave you the asset they were supposed to do? Like like how much of your time do you spend project managing, trying to remember that so-and-so was supposed to give you this one thing on Friday, or you're supposed to attend this meeting, or you need to give a document to so-and-so, or you have to make a presentation, right? The project manager, AKA operations specialist, is a huge headache saver. And you can think of it as an extension of a personal assistant. A lot of people hire virtual assistants as like secretaries, because a secretary can call and send flowers and schedule things and send out notes and stuff like that. But their operations specialist role that we train for is beyond the traditional assistant who's doing calendar kind of stuff. And then to actually be an extension of you and knowing who your network is, knowing what you like, knowing that you like to sit the exit row when you book tickets, that's the kind of stuff you don't want to give to Fiverr, because it's, access to your credit card and access to your calendar, access to all these kinds of things. It requires knowing who you are, right? And then you develop that kind of rapport. And it may be that you just don't. I see a lot of really smart agency owners, and they could really assist by someone who could just organize their life for them. Or maybe they just, mom's not there anymore to take care of things, right? To clean your room. But you need someone to do stuff like that, right? Because you're busy taking care of this other stuff. Okay. questions on this so far? How you guys doing? Tanya, I have a graphic designer who's from the US but is currently living in Berlin. I pay $549 for unlimited graphic design projects. She even proofs and communicates directly with the client. It's great. Okay, fantastic. That's like a design pickle model. Whenever you hear someone say unlimited graphics design or unlimited whatever, usually it's not actually unlimited. It's on a task by task basis, right? And it may be a queue. And they usually, whenever you hear that, there'll be several levels. There'll be one like for $349 where you have one task at a time. It's like Netflix, or what is it, DVDs by mail, where, oh, what's the price for three tasks at a time? Or what's the price for one person who works only on you, right? And a lot of the times you'll hear people say, these networks of VAs that do a particular thing say that you get a dedicated designer. Well, dedicated doesn't mean they work only on you. It means that that's the one who works on your stuff, but they may be splitting their time among 3 or 4 or 10 different clients. So just be careful. So for $549 a month, you could probably get your own full-time virtual assistant who's working only for you, loyal to you, not being paid by somebody else, but then you have to understand the rules of how do you manage and train a VA, right? And a third-party agency often will add a lot of value, especially if you've never hired a VA before, okay? Okay, let's talk about.
There was one more question in there, Dennis, from Joe. Why that order of growth? First video, then ops. I mean, the fact you recommend getting a videographer first kind of ties directly to your other video strategies we've talked about so far, but maybe elaborate?
Yep. So the number one pain point we see with agencies is getting more clients. And the best way to get more clients, like we've talked about in other trainings, is these clients just need to know who you are. They need to know what you care about. They need to hear your expertise, where you're sharing it about local and how do you rank in the 3-pack and what is it that you do and don't do, and what are your packages and what do things charge, and what is the snapshot report and why is that important, and things like this. And you can record these videos on your phone. You could record it as a GoToMeeting or Google Hangout or Skype or whatever, but you need to get those things edited. And in building your agency, like I was showing you over here in the operations process here, if you don't have this green bar here that helps people understand who you are and what your niche is, and be able to take those assets, the raw video, and chop them up into your 1-minute videos, things you put on the website, things you put on social, put on LinkedIn, turn into articles, then people can't build that relationship. Potential clients can't build that relationship with you. So video tends to be, I've seen people come in and hire all these other things, but they seem to, of the agencies we work with, which is a lot, hundreds, it always keeps going back to the bottleneck of either not producing video, which is common because they're afraid of pointing the phone at their face, and I understand. And then once they have some video, just not getting it edited. Like and because they're afraid of a videographer costs a lot of money, because they do, or they don't know how to manage that stuff, or cameras and like software to do video editing. We have a whole course on video editing. That's what our VAs go through. And it's a pro level course. And frankly, I don't want to do that, because even if I find it's interesting, my time's worth more than $4 or $5 an hour, right? Because from video, you can create quote cards and graphics and websites. You can transcribe the video into blog posts, like what we're doing off of this. But you can't go the other way around. You can't take a blog post and turn it into a video. You can't take photos of the client and turn it into a video. You can turn it into a slideshow, but that's not the same thing as real video, where they see your face. They see the client's face. They see where you're at. They see all these things that are happening. Here, look. So I have Amazon Photos. I have 4 photo apps, networks, that pull off of my phone automatically. So I'm in Miami today with Mark, and we're taking videos and photos. There's Rich Sheffrin, and there's Joel Bauer, and this is the guy who runs a $100 million component of Agora, Matt. And there's us with, where's the ones? Like Russell Brunson's here, and they've got pictures with all these things. This is Jeff Walker, right? So we're doing interviews. We're taking all these items, and these need to be turned into blog posts and tweets and Instagram stories and lead magnets. And here Mark's explaining something that we're building, right? So if you're collecting these assets on your phone, what are you going to do with them? Just post a few here and there on Facebook? You've got to turn them into assets that drive exposure and then leads for your business. And there's nothing better than inbound leads. Like cold calling, a lot of people can make money doing that. Good for you, but inbound leads is the best. Especially, it just amplifies the referral process. So video editing, so key for that. And video is what drives. If you've got more clients than you know what to do with and everything's great there, you don't need a video editor. But if your issue is you need more leads, you need a video editor to make that happen. Does that make sense? And let me talk about the other components here too. The second one we like to hire. Now, you don't have to hire in this order. It depends on where your agency is and maybe what you focus on. Maybe you're an SEO agency. You still need video because people still, to be able to hire you, they need to know who you are. The operations specialist, which is the project manager, is probably just as important as a video editor because most agencies are horribly disorganized. They don't have a clear lighthouse. Therefore, they don't have a repeatable package. They don't have a way they schedule their time. They don't have, or when they're executing, it's just sort of seat of the pants and they're being reactive. They're replying to clients based on whoever messages them. So it's a squeaky wheel, and they're trading urgency for importance, which is what most agency people do. They're constantly responding to Skypes and texts and having meetings, and somehow at the end of the day, they found they didn't get the important thing done, which is a real shame, isn't it? Have you ever been at the end of the day and you're like, wow, I feel like I've been busy all day, but what was the one or two things I needed to get done today that were important? And did I focus on those items first before taking those things that were squeaky wheel noisy, that were urgent but not important? And the operations specialist is helping you structure that because they're laying out the schedule, they're mapping out what timelines have to happen for different clients and for your agency. So you always have the context of what's important, right? And then you have the content specialist that works with the video editor. Then you have the designer, because then they have assets to work with. But if you have a designer before you have a video editor, what are they working with? You can take video and turn it into stills, images, but you can't go the other way around. And then once you have more traffic, either for the client or for yourself, then you have community management. But until you have a lot of traffic, then what are you doing? Just like posting 3 times a day on Facebook just because, and then getting 0 engagement, which is what we typically see. People who have community management VAs or are selling social packages saying, yeah, for $599 a month, I will post once a week on your blog and post 3 times on Twitter. And then you look at their stuff and has no engagement. They're just burning money. So I don't believe in going to this role until you have these other components like quality content, like video that then flows through here, that then the community managers are able to share, right? Even if they're using whatever your favorite buffer kind of tool is, Sprout Social, whatever. Engineering is one that we don't like to hire first off for new agencies because you need these other processes in place first. And the most common task for a VA for engineering is setting up pixels. So the Google and Facebook remarketing pixel that also sits with the Google Analytics pixel that sits inside a Google Tag Manager pixel. Inside the Google Tag Manager Universal pixel, you may have a ad roll pixel, a Twitter remarketing pixel, a LinkedIn pixel, Snapchat pixel, put in lots of pixels. Plumbing also includes custom audiences of email. So that's integration of MailChimp or Infusionsoft, tying the tailored audiences, which are also email audiences through Twitter and LinkedIn, like different kinds of retargeting, UTM parameters, site-wide SSL to make sure you're not dropping the direct none traffic, other things to make sure your analytics are working properly, installing WordPress and other kinds of plugins that you need. Right? That's the engineering VA. It's not building applications, but really just integrating things that may need a little bit of touch that are semi-technical that maybe either you don't want to do or you don't know how to do, okay? We have engineers that actually are building software because we are a software company, but you don't really need that. And you probably don't need a full-time engineer. By the time you have a full-time engineer, you probably already have 10 to 15 people in these other roles, unless you are specializing as an engineering company for agencies, which you rarely see. The closest you're going to see are companies that specialize in analytics, which is going to be increasing over time, but analytics requires you to be very data-oriented. And even if you are data-oriented and do things like ad optimization and help people measure the impact of their viral marketing, or how direct mail works together by driving brand traffic on Google on brand search terms, you still need a video editor to be able to teach or edit your teachings on these. You still need to have content out there where you're teaching what you know how to do. Just like here, we're teaching, because we've done a lot of VA hiring, we're actually, we can teach from it. We can cut up our think tank videos like this one and turn them into other derivative content, right? So is that good? I know we went kind of a long way on that one. Let's see what we have here in our chat. Okay, yeah, why that order of growth? Maybe I spent too long on that one, Joe, but hopefully that answers your question and is helpful to everybody else. Okay, we have only a few minutes. Should I just keep going on this and then maybe we'll continue part 2 next week?
Yeah, we're probably going to have to turn this into a multi-part session, which is great. Was there anything that you think these guys should get started with even this week? Like, is there homework or something we could take away and bring back for next week, even deciding what the next steps would be?
Yep. Write a list of the packages that you offer. And it could be the items that you already are white labeling from Vendasta. And make 1-minute videos talking about those items. And the irony is we hear people saying, oh, I need to drive sales. Okay, well, where's your packages, and have you made videos about these packages? Because people can't buy from you unless they have something clearly to know what to buy. And when you have those, then you can start to tie your VAs into the packages and items that you have as part of your process. Because the odds are you're coming in, you're running a snapshot report. Based on the snapshot report, you're offering 5 or 6 packages to build their website, to do PPC, to do local listings. Like, make videos against each thing that you sell. And then that can become the basis of how you hire VAs, because then they see this is what you offer.
I love that. One step ahead. He says he's going to hire his first VA for homework. So that's that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, you see people cheat on that too. You could just do a continuous Skype interview or what have you, and then have a video VA chop it up for you, or just hire someone on Fiverr for $30 to chop all this stuff for you, and then go hire a full-time VA. It's like, if you, let's say, Devin, you really want to drive a Ferrari, what is it, a 455 or whatever, but you don't know how to drive stick, let's say. Well, you want to go on a rental before you grind the gears on your car, right?
Yeah.
But learn to do it on Fiverr first before you hire your VA. It'll just be better, right?
Fair enough. No, it really resonates with the video piece, why you might hire that first. Once you get over the fear of turning that camera on yourself, you start capturing, you capture more and more. It's really the editing that becomes the bottleneck, and getting it up there.
There's Apple Clips and other tools, Final Cut Pro, but you don't want to, garage, whatever. Yeah.
My last question, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I do want to address the elephant in the room, because every time VAs come up, you're going to get someone asking, is that not just cheap labor? How do you respond to people in that argument that it's unethical? What would you say to that?
Yeah. So the guy who's in charge of social care at Walmart, his name's Mark. Okay, so let me back up. So I made a post on Facebook saying, I love my VAs. They're so awesome. They're like family to me. And what's amazing is we get so much work done. We wouldn't be able to do all this if we didn't have an army of VAs. And would you believe it that they start out at $2 an hour? And if we were to try to hire, well, first off, legally, you can't hire people at $2 an hour in the US or Canada. But the going rate for someone who knows how to use, for example, like Adobe Premiere, that's $50 an hour plus. That's just what it is. And if they're good, like $75 to $100 an hour, you guys know this, right? Go look around and see what it costs. That's what it costs. So the guy who ran social customer care, who has 200 people in the United States that are responding to all the hate that Walmart gets on social channels. And you can imagine the kinds of things that people say about Walmart, right? Then he said, how can you possibly be ethical? Because he said, you are exploiting third world labor. And if that video editor on your team in the Philippines is doing work that would be $75 an hour in the US, out of fairness, you should be paying $75 an hour to them. That's your point, right, Devin?
That's a point.
And
anybody who tells this to their friends or family are going to get that question, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or in America, we have this thing like, oh, America, we need to, hire American. Why are you offshoring? You're like, we're like eliminating jobs. We can't be like, we need to hire, here because people need jobs. And we have several responses. So first, with that guy from Walmart, I said, this is a respectable job that our team members have. We are training them. They're learning and earning. We're moving up the levels. And I got a couple hundred comments from other virtual assistants, from the people that are well-known in our space. John Jonas, the founder of OnlineJobs.ph, replied saying, this guy has no idea what he's talking about, right? Other people that are experts in outsourcing replied on this. And we had dozens of our VAs reply on that thread saying, how dare you try to insult, this is how I care for my family. I used to commute to an office in downtown Manila, and it was an hour and a half of sitting in traffic each way. Now I'm making more money. I'm spending time with my family, right? There's different standards economically. I'm college educated. How dare you call me third world labor, right? I'm producing world-class results, but I'm in the Philippines and I'm perfectly happy with this. To make 10 or 12 bucks an hour in the Philippines is like making 100,000 bucks in the US. You know how much it costs to live in the Philippines to be able to live well, right? So there's no one mad. The only one mad is this guy who's at Walmart. So then I took that thread and I posted it to his boss. And a week later, he didn't have a job. So there's that, right? So where you're able, this is not like Apple making cheap iPhones, right? This is about us helping other people, helping them grow, giving them skills. And in the US, because we're training specialists, they're doing account management. So everyone here, we're talking directly to the clients. For every one job we're creating in the US, that person, in order for them to be able to be more effective, we need to create 3 jobs in the Philippines. Because for the young adults that are in our program and for the stay-at-home moms, they don't want to do video editing. They don't want to do this project management. So for them to be able to grow and manage more clients, every 3 people we hire in the Philippines, that's 1 more person in the US we want to hire. So we're hiring hand in hand. It's not that every person we hire in the Philippines has less jobs in the US. In order to service a client properly, you need more as the restaurant grows, you need more waiters and you need more cooks at the same time. You're not hiring only cooks. You're not hiring only waiters, right?
All right. No, I appreciate that response. It's an important part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So with that, I think we're right on the note of the hour here. Does anybody have anything else? I think you've got a challenge now, some videos to record and get for this time next week. But parting words, parting shots from anybody. Maybe just as we leave here, put a comment in the side panel just on first of all, like this week, what you thought was interesting and helpful, and then what you want to see still on this VA topic for next week, so that we can make sure that that's valuable. And while you're doing that, yeah, Joe says 1 video for each product is the homework. That is correct.
Yep.
And yeah, while you're filling that out, I was just going to say we're going to open up the think tank a little bit more in the future weeks too. So we're going to get some more faces in here and start turning these sessions into blog posts and other types of media. Talk about video editing. We've got our own video editing challenge here now and cut it up. But otherwise, oh, Mitch says, thanks, Dennis. One of the favorite ones so far. Perfect. I'm glad it's being helpful for folks. So I really still look at this as a great time every week to work on the business instead of in the business. And thanks, Dennis, again for leading the way.
Thank you, guys, and good luck on the homework. We should open each week's meeting to see how people did on the homework, then go to our core training, and then do more in the homework. That way we keep everybody accountable, right? Because we don't want to turn this into just a webinar. That's no good. Then you might as
I
well
love it. For sharing.
There you
Perfect.
go. If you're coming to this thing, if you're coming to our think tank, you are committing to doing the homework, right? You got to put in the work because we're here to grow our agencies together, right?
Right.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.